It's okay, it takes time. I know.
Welcome back to Strong, everybody. I'm so excited to bring another amazing guest to our platform. Today, we meet with Bruno. Bruno is based here in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, and we are still going through the COVID pandemic. And so that's why we are meeting remotely. Welcome to Strong, Bruno. It's so great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Maria. It's a pleasure. I'm honored to be here with you.
It is so exciting to be talking to you. We're going to be talking about all things from your career, living in Dubai, what it was like being a younger Bruno, and really taking us on that life journey. Strong is about connecting real life stories for the youth to begin to understand what it's really like to be going through the journey we call life. So it's always great to meet with new people just like yourself. Thanks for coming.
No, thank you.
Let's start with, I think it would be a really easy start to this conversation. Let's start with growing up in Venezuela. So you grew up in Venezuela and you obviously traveled, and here you are in Dubai. What was that like for you, traveling from your home country to living across, the other side of the world, and being in a completely different cultural surrounding?
Yes. Well, it's not that I did a jump directly from Venezuela all the way to UAE. Actually, I was very young, I'm already traveling. I remember my mom and dad, they were against me traveling alone to the capital when I was 14, 15. They, they didn't like the idea, but I did it anyway. Um, so since at an early age, I already was exploring. When I was 18, I traveled internationally alone for the first time. I went to Mexico to do a course in audio, and I spent 6 months there. Then I went again for another 9 months. I worked as well. Uh, then I started to travel to Europe. I lived in Italy, in England as well for 7 years when I met my wife. And all of those different locations, I thought I was in Brazil. Um, so all these travels that I did alone, it's just, it's like adrenaline. You just want more. So you can't avoid it. When I left Venezuela, was about 20 years ago, the whole idea was just to go to England, learn some English, and come back home because, Venezuela was a different place back then. But after 3 months, became 6, became a year. I met my wife there, and you know, and 2008, and when it was the crisis, there was a time to okay, let's go somewhere else. And my father, being an architect, and sending me so many PowerPoints about Dubai, the buildings and stuff. I asked my wife once in the living room, I said, should I find a job in Dubai? What do you think? Let me apply. There is a job post over here. I applied. A month later, I got a job offer, and that's it. That was 11 years ago.
That's
And
incredible.
here since.
So, and I think that a lot of young people, especially being in this part of the world, they do travel abroad. It's quite common for them to begin traveling abroad when they go off to university. Most of the time, parents are from different parts of the world, or even if they are from here, we
Yes.
almost expect them to stay in their home countries, or if they're from here, to return to their home country. But we're seeing more and more that they don't want to return and they do like this global travel. What would you say have been some of your tips for staying resilient, especially when you might be feeling homesick, or you might be feeling a cultural shock, or even such a difference in culture that you have to adapt through those changes?
Yeah. The cultural shock. Uh, when you start to travel, when you are young, it's the first time you go out, you realize that the cultural shock is like, yeah, it shocks you, literally. Uh, Especially when, uh, even that they, even When I was traveling to Mexico, even though it's the same language, we both speak Spanish, the words have different meanings. And some of them, that means nothing back home in Mexico is like, really? Really, did you say that? I mean, it's like a blip on TV. Uh, Besides that, is the behaviors and how people uh, re, uh, react to circumstances. And you get at the beginning, yes, it is a gap, but the more you travel, you start to get used to it, and then you use the first thing you land on a place is like, okay, what do I need to get? What do I need to do so I don't embarrass myself in this country? Now, this is so long ago that you have to deal with that. Today, the young people, they don't have that. They don't have not even 10%, I would say. 10% of what you have to go through back then. Now it's super easy. I mean, pretty much, if you want to know about a country, go to YouTube. There's plenty of people that is going to tell you what not to say, what to do, what is taboo in one country, what is permissible. They would tell you. And besides that, especially in UAE, this place is a pot of so many cultures and nationalities and costumes. You're already used to it. So traveling is so easy. Traveling is cheaper. Traveling is it's not a luxury anymore. It used to be like, oh, I'm going somewhere. Everybody look at you like, really, you're traveling? Not anymore. Now it's just hop and go. In Europe, especially, those you go from UK to France, France to Italy, and so on, then to Germany, and you spend probably $500, and you've been all around. Incredible facilities young people have. But anyway, that's a very long answer. Next.
Yeah, no, that's so great. And I think it's important that we talk about these things. Now, when you mentioned cultural shock, I like the way that you even said it. It was like, really, it's like a shock. What do you remember as some of those? Oh my goodness, I didn't expect. I know you said some of the words that you might say, but what would you say has been the biggest learning in that cultural shock and overcoming cultural shock? Because I don't think young people really understand until they've lived it. And I think it's one of those things. It doesn't matter what you read on Google or what you see on YouTube or what somebody tells you until you've walked the shoes of cultural difference. You can't really understand what that's like. What would you say has been your biggest learning on that journey of moving around the world?
All right. I think there's two questions in there. One is, what is the biggest shock that I had? This is actually quite relevant at this moment with the feminism movement and all the stuff. In Venezuela, we were raised to be gentlemen. Like gentlemen, you treat a woman like a princess. You treat a woman well. You open the door. You make sure that you pay the bill. Everything. I mean, you're supposed to be the gentleman. And the word says gentle. Yeah. Okay. Now, when I went to England, I was going out with a group of friends from the English school. What happened? I remember there was a German girl, there was a Polish girl, Lithuanian girl, there were two Slovenian guys, some other people there. But anyway, there was a German girl that I was really, I had a crush on her. And turns out she was a smoker, and me too. So I went to light a cigarette up. She got upset. She took, this is 20 years ago, eh? No, 11 plus 7, yeah, almost 20. She took the cigarette lighter out of my hand, and she got upset that I was trying to light up her cigarette. I'm like, I didn't know how to react. I was like, did I say something wrong? What is this? And then it was this Lithuanian girl was explaining, no, it's what happened. Some women, they are more independent. I light up the cigarette to my friend, male friend as well. It's just a courtesy. That was shock number one. I was never introduced to the feminism that way. Um, and the second question, I already lost it. That's why I should write it down.
No, you're good. You're doing really well. My second question is, well, I think you answered it in that first question, in that cultural shock. And you're right. Nobody tells you what to expect. You kind of have to walk it, what we were saying before. You have to live it to experience it. What did you learn from that experience, and how did it change you or shape you?
Okay, the main thing that I learned is be tolerant. I I try, as long as I understand that whatever I grow up with, whatever I learn in my life, I truly believe there is nothing wrong with it. I'm not offended. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong by opening the door to someone, female and male, by the way, female and male. I open the door. Is to be a gentleman, to be respectful, to be courteous. Is nothing wrong with it. That's what I understand. So if someone is gonna get offended by it, if someone is gonna get offended by someone doesn't like my accent, for example, I can't. There is not much I can do. I'm not made of gold to for everybody to like me, and the only thing is just ignore it. I mean, everybody have right to dislike you. Really, it's like what you can do. I mean, I don't get offended for many things. I mean, compared with this generation that to really get offended for so easily, I don't. And traveling and meeting other people, that's what teach me being more relaxed in those regards. That I would say that that's the major thing that I learned.
Being more
Just
relaxed. I like how you said that.
yeah,
I really like how you said that. And what would you say has been your, when you look back at who you were when you left Venezuela that very first time to go learn English,
mm,
right? When you look back at that younger man and you look at how far you've come, what would you say has been your biggest, greatest opportunity? Something that you look back and say, wow, I've come this far.
wow. Well, when I left, number one, I left, I think I was 21 years old. When when you are at that age, you believe that you know so much. You think that you got everything figured out. No. Number one, you're gonna realize that you don't have anything figured out. That there is people that they really have their and even the ones that you think that got everything figured out, they still learning. They still trying to find answers in their life. So that when I look back at young and handsome and good looking with no gray hair Bruno, yeah, compared to now, age doesn't forgive. Eh? But when I look back at myself, what I would like to say is like, don't procrastinate. You will have time to party. Just concentrate on anything that you do. Do it best you can and as fast as you can. Learn as fast as you can because you're gonna need it. 30 is gonna catch you up like really fast. And if you think that that was fast, wait until you hit 40. That's gonna be even faster. Don't waste time. That's what I would tell myself. Yeah, what a difference. I was, he was party and everything. And some people say that you shouldn't have regrets. I don't. That's all what I did brought me to this point talking to you, Maria. But it could be faster. That's for sure.
What's it like to be you right now at this point in your life?
That's a that's a profound question. I don't know, because I haven't been someone else. You know that I'm gonna be thinking about this question for the next 30 days.
And that's what Strong is all about. It's not just about our audience. It's also questions that get us self-reflecting.
Yeah,
We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it.
it is
We'll
an
come back
amazing
to it.
question. It's just like, from which perspective can I put that question? Because if I would have an experience to be someone else, I guess I could tell you, but yeah, I'm gonna be. That's a very deep and reflective a question to reflect on it.
Let's go back to the younger Bruno. I believe you started working at a young age, almost 11 years old.
Yeah, it was
What was the
crazy.
drive? It was, and I remember hearing you tell this story in a different interview with another host, and I was
Yeah,
listening to it saying that type of entrepreneurship, that type of drive to want to do something, that isn't taught. That almost sounded innate. It almost sounded like it was part of your DNA. Tell us about the
yeah.
story of how you decided at such a young age that you wanted to do something different.
You're right when you say that it could be DNA or could be uh, teach to someone. I think it's the latter. I think is teach to someone. I was None of my family was a business person. None of my family was an entrepreneur. Maybe one, but it wasn't really, nothing major. But I guess all started when I used to draw when I was a kid at primary school. I used to draw really well. Like, I can't do that anymore, but back then when I see some of the drawings that my mom kept, I'm like, did I did that? That's not bad. That was the time of the Transformer cartoons and Robocop, and used to draw really intricate robots. And then I have some friends that at school that they were like, wow, that's amazing. Can I have it? And I'm like, sure, there is one. I do another drawing, and then another friend, can I have it? Yes. And then I was like, Jesus, but now I don't have it. So I was like, okay, I don't know, invite me, like, pay me for lunch and I give you my drawing. No? And then they were doing that. And then I think a moment in time that I said, like, hold on a second, I have something that someone wants, and I can get something in return. Then I started to charge for the drawings. It was nothing. It was like 1 dirham per page or something, or five maybe. So I'm drawing, and I sell it the original drawings. And I was having some income more than anybody. So I was having enough for lunch, the whole thing. And I think that was the seed. Now, then it came the moment of Eureka when I discovered the Xerox copy. Oh, oh, oh. What happened there? All right. Then I have the original and I have the copy. So I was selling the originals for 5 dirhams and the copies for 1 dirham. And of course, the whole team I tried to place the originals, expensive, so I don't have to sell it, and I only sell the copies, a Xerox copy, and people were buying it. That the other kids were buying it. I started to. It was. Everything started. I'm sure. That's as far as I remember. And there was a problem, Then the PTA. There was a PTA reunion. They were like, no, what is this? I send my kid for lunch money, and then he comes back and he hasn't eaten, and he comes with a stupid drawing. What is this? So at the end, I had to stop. Uh, but I remember saying that this is what my mom and dad tell me that I said on the meeting. It's like, what, you are stopping the creativity on the school? I went all rebel back then. But that's about it. Then when I started to really have a job, it was actually, this came through my dad not spoiling me. My mom, yeah, she spoiled me. My mom did. My grandma, she did. But my dad never. He didn't spoil me. He wasn't a businessman. and he made sure, he really made it a mission not to spoil me. Yes, I had Christmas presents, birthday presents, but some minor things here and there. But if I would want, back then there was no Nintendo, but if I would want something big, he made sure that I deserve it, that I worked for it. And one thing that he did is that when the CD came out, I already was in love with music. CD players came out, and I was like, "Wow, this is a new technology. I want it. I want a player." My dad said, "That's too expensive. When you have your money, you know how much $3,000 is. You spend it on whatever you want." And that's what I did. Get a job. Besides that, I guess friends, the group of friends that you have is super important. My best friend back then, it wasn't a teenager. It was a 22-year-old guy, my neighbor, my piano teacher. So yeah, he was a young guy, 22. Now I see a 22-year-old guy and it's like, it's a kid. He was 22. He was 21. I was 11, which is 10 years older than me. So he teach me piano, and he started me to introduce to the world of playing live, other people playing music. I was going to weddings, to birthday parties. I was going to bars at the age of 11 and 12 just to see the musician. It's a small city, so you can do that. And I was going, looking at and I was mesmerized by the other players. And I was like, how much he makes? He was making 800. I'm like, wow. And I calculated how much is in dollars. Ooh, that's good. Per night, awesome. And a year later, I was having my first job, like you saw in the other interview. I went for it, and I was charging 1,500 per night. I was the best paid musician, period, in the city. But that was something that happened with the owner. That was hilarious. Should I say it?
Go for it. Tell us.
Jesus, this answer went super long. Do you need it?
Go for
Well,
it.
this is what happened. I went over there. I wanted to ask for 600. Okay, let's talk about dirhams here. So I went to ask for 600 dirhams per night. As a kid, 11 years, I was 12 already. And turns out that the owner that knows my dad, and they know each other, he didn't want to say no to me because of their family friendship. And then he said, okay, you know what? I'm going to be busy. So my son is going to talk with you about how much you want to earn. And sure, in mind, I had 600. The coolest guy in town, he was earning 800. I mean, I was like really overshooting there, but never mind. Turns out that comes this kid, again, I think he was somewhere around 25, 28, and he said, let's go somewhere, and then we talk about money. Okay. Turns out that we go to the back of the hotel to see his car, and he has a Toyota Celica, brand new, full equipped, and I'm like, what? I think it was the only one in town. Like, wow, what a car. As soon as I sat, I look around, I smell the brand new car, and I say, okay, I'm going to charge 1,500. I didn't double it. I went beyond that. When we came back from where we were, and we sat in the meeting, and we sat together, and he's, okay, Bruno, okay, how much you want to earn? And I'm like, 1,500 a day. He went like, what? He knew that no one is earning that money. But he said, yes. Okay. And I really have to work hard because I knew that I was asking for so much, and I have to give equal back. I never studied so hard piano. I was learning probably 3 songs a week just to make sure that I have new material because now that was an extra pressure. You know, when you are charging Louis Vuitton prices, you have to deliver Louis Vuitton quality. And yeah, that was crazy. My God, feel free to cut this answer. It's like so long.
No,
Sorry.
it's really great. I want to take you back. I think, you know, when I work with the youth and I talk to them, they look up to role models like yourself. And when we hear the stories, just like you told us right now, it always sounds like a great adventure and it always sounds a really jolly time. But we know that life isn't always rainbows and butterflies. We know that there will be challenging days. The awareness around mental health, especially with the youth, is finally something that we're talking more and more about. I know that when I was growing up, there were obviously mental health issues, but they were never discussed. These issues were never talked about. And young people kind of had to find their way through it. And anyone that didn't, we didn't really hear those stories. But today we hear a lot of stories about the youth struggling with mental health, depression, you know, the issues that come with feeling so dark and so low. When you think back to your younger years, do you remember ever struggling with any mental health issues? Or along your journey, do you find that there were certain times in your life when days weren't as easy as they might be right now? I heard you mention that 2020 was really a hard year. Obviously, COVID hit your industry incredibly hard and probably is still, you're probably still trying to recover from what happened through 2020. And luckily in the UAE, there's more movement, but of course, going back to those challenging times, would you say that you did have moments where you felt it could have been an easier day, times were a little bit tough?
When I was young, I didn't have those particular issues besides being heartbroken by a girl. I mean, I fall in love very easily. But then when I was older, the there was I had moments that I definitely was depressed. Not because I self-diagnosed that, because my family and friends they noticed. It's like, Bruno, definitely, I think you are depressed. And yeah, now once you are out of it and you see back and say, yeah, that definitely was a depression. When you start to procrastinate like crazy, when you don't see where is your north, when you are okay, I study audio, I'm good at drawing, I'm making music, I'm doing that, you're doing so many things but you're not focusing one thing. That lead me to, and you don't see results of what you do. Yeah, that take you to depression really easily. uh you don't see results on the efforts that you put every day. It can take you to a depression. I would say that those are the difficult times. Most difficult time definitely was 2017, 2008. That was, no, 2007, 2008. 2008, the worst of all. It was that credit crunch. UK jobs went to zero. It was the first time ever. I would say that I hit zero income for a very long time, and it was hard. And I managed to survive. The support of my wife was key on that. Uh, she was really supportive. So being on that at that time, crazy. And the closest thing to back then, I would say, now there was a time. I cannot say, Dubai is so small that everybody knows each other. So just by saying what I'm saying, uh, I need to be as vague as possible on this. But when you are on a job position and there is a line manager or there is people at work that makes you feel incompetent, at least from what they say, it touches your core. It really it moves your foundation, and you really have to think that if they are right or not. What I did on that time is to actually, I didn't believe that they were right, and I demonstrated that they weren't right, and I did demonstrate. So that whole thing, it took around year and a half, 2 years. that was really strange. It was here in Dubai. It was really weird, surreal, like strange. Like I didn't know what to make out of it. And all of a sudden, I rise on top of it. I demonstrated that incompetent. No, here you go. This is the answer. I went and I demonstrated myself, and that's how I got to the point that I am. Now I've been back then. Nobody knew me. After doing that, it was a challenge. After doing what I did, now the recognition came to. I mean the now my name. Before that time, you Google my name, there's nothing. Now you Google my name, there is. But here I give you a point. Whatever you do it the best you can. Don't do it that you need to show that someone is for someone. No, do it because it has to be done well. Do it because you are the one that are putting your fingerprints on whatever jobs you're doing. And that has to be the best you can because that is the representation of yourself. If you're going to do any job and you're going to do it halfway, that is a mirror of everything that follows. Just do it the best you can. The word, that's enough. That's enough. That is, don't use that one. Please. Do everything
So
the best you can.
you mentioned
Be
some really key
perfectionist.
you mentioned some really key points of people's life experiences, from heartbreak, a very, very challenging experience for many, many people. And I don't think it matters what age you are,
Mm.
to being able to get through bullying, which is what you talked about, being bullied and finding that resilience through it. A lot of young people are struggling with both cyberbullying, as you mentioned, and even face-to-face bullying as well. And then, of course, probably one of the greatest challenges that adults face is economic challenges, and identifying who they are through those economic challenges. Very key life experiences that you brought up, and are definitely issues that we see creating heaviness with people that are struggling with finding their way through, those darker days. What would you say? I mean, I can hear you tell me these stories and I can see the patterns of character traits. Definitely adaptability and resilience are two that are coming out very, very clearly from where I'm standing. But going back to that question about what does it feel like to be you, when you hear yourself telling me these stories and you're able to kind of remember those moments, what would you say has really been the thing that has got you through all those challenges?
Family and good friends. That's definitely. Look, it doesn't matter that you have plenty of people that say, and I'm talking famous gurus of motivational speakers, that they tell you that power is within you and you can make it. Look, at the end is the support of your family, support from your family, support from your real friends. Key. Uh, Most of this, I managed to travel because my mom supports me. We weren't rich, by the way. I mean, to study audio, I had to save. Thanks God that I was working so I could pay college. Uh, but she was like, well, if you want to go, let's do it. And she get excited because I was traveling, and that was super, that was the key. So support from my family. As I said, my best friend, he was 10 years older than me, and he was a mentor. He still today is still one of my best friends. And that group of that support from friends made it easier to overcome any hurdles that I had. My wife, she's always to give an example. We have a baby now, and she knows that I'm working on the business. So she tries to give me the space that I need to concentrate on the business.
I could talk to you forever, Bruno, but I know that we need to bring it to a close. One last question, probably the hardest question for many guests from the past. Why are you here? Why are you sharing your life story with me, a total stranger?
Why not? I'm not I'm kind of a timid person, kind of, not so much. But I think if I have something to share, I do it. I met many people that they say, "Oh, this is a trade secret. Oh, you don't say this, you don't say that. No, no, keep it to you. You don't share this information to anybody." I'm totally against that. I'm most open source than anybody. You want to know how my business runs? Please come. I tell you my business model, no problem. Because that is not the secret. The business model is not the secret. It's the passion that you have, that you are actually believe in what you're doing. That's what is going. That's the secret sauce. Nothing else. If if you share everything that you know, the only thing that is going to happen is that things are going to get better around you. Share the good stuff you learned, share the crappy experience that you had, so other people don't go through it. You can, I mean, there is many people that you can tell, look, don't do it. It's going to be hard, and it's down to them if they're going to listen to it, if they're going to pay attention to it. But I said it, or I tell them things that they can do to be better. The world is so confusing now. It's such a strange place that the best thing you can do is just try to share what you know. My doors are open to everyone. But
It's been a fun conversation. I've had a lot of fun listening to your stories, and I'm sure that our audience watching is also really enjoying listening to your stories. And thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you all again next week for another episode of #Strong.